Number 8. Stephen Matthews. Storm Eunice swept through the UK in February of 2022, causing widespread destruction and at least 4 deaths. Considered to have been one of the worst meteorological events of its kind to strike Britain in decades, it ripped up trees, sent debris flying, tore apart the roof of the O2 in Greenwich, London, and caused the spire of St Thomas Church in Wells, Somerset, to come crashing to the earth. A gust of wind was recorded at 122 miles per hour in the Isle of Wight and established to have been the fastest ever measured in England. One of the tragedies associated with the storm was the death of 68-year-old Stephen Matthews, the father of 2, described as a popular and well-known member of the Aintree community in Merseyside, was a passenger in a van travelling on Dunningsbridge Road as powerful winds sent debris flying through the street. The vehicle's windscreen was shattered. Matthews was struck and sustained devastating injuries to which he succumbed at the scene. The van's driver, whose name was not released, was reported as unhurt. Number 7. Valentina Tomaszewski. In April of 2021, during a severe Florida storm, Valentina Tomaszewski, reported as being in her late teens, was fatally electrocuted while trying to escape her burning vehicle. She had been driving her Dodge Avenger through Spring Hill near Tampa when she encountered a tree that had been downed by the storm. Tomaszewski managed to steer her car around it and avoid a collision, but then drove over a power line that had collapsed with the tree. The wire suddenly sparked in the rain and, as described by the Hernando County Fire Rescue, set fire to the driver's side of Tomaszewski's Dodge. She attempted to get out via the passenger side, but in doing so stepped on the live wire and suffered a massive electric shock. Bystanders tried to help Tomaszewski, and one man was shocked after stepping in a puddle near her car, but wasn't reported as being in life-threatening condition. Even when police arrived at the scene, officers couldn't get out of their cruisers to help the teen due to the fact that the line still carried electricity. Fire rescue crews had to shut down power in the neighborhood to reach Tomaszewski. Unfortunately, by then, she'd already succumbed to her injuries. Over the weekend of when the tragic incident had occurred, the storm brought heavy rain, strong winds, hail, and lightning to wide areas of Florida. Tornadoes caused damage in the Panhandle, while neighborhoods near Orlando faced golf ball-sized hail. Roughly 20,000 residents were left without electricity throughout the state, while up to 100 flights were cancelled at Miami International Airport. Number 6. Elmig Vermolin. In February of 2022, as Storm Eunice battered the Netherlands, an actress and TV personality narrowly avoided death when a tree came crashing down on an Amsterdam street. Elmig Vermolin had been driving through the southern part of the city at a time when warnings were in effect for winds of up to 75 miles per hour. On February the 18th, a resident was filming a tree which had tilted considerably under the force of the wind. Then, just as Vermolin's SUV passed on the street, the tree came crashing down. The front of the actress's vehicle had narrowly made it through, and only the rear was clipped by the collapsing trunk. As the video began circulating on social media, 45-year-old Vermolin confirmed on her Instagram stories that her vehicle was the one involved, saying, "Dear people, please be careful. I just had a tree on my car." She was extremely fortunate to have survived, as there were several deaths connected to falling trees, which occurred on the same day in the country. They were reported as 2 people from Amsterdam, one of whom was a cyclist, a driver in Diemen, and a 4th person in Adorp, who'd collided with a fallen tree in their car. Number 5. Teresa Roy. Teresa and David Roy, both in their late 70s, were driving to their home in the town of Oakland, Maine, when they were caught in a severe windstorm. In late February of 2021, strong air currents had reportedly battered their Hyundai Santa Fe on I-95, at which point the couple opted for a 2-lane road through Sydney. As David was driving at around 50 miles per hour, a pine tree blown down by high wind struck the Hyundai. The man struggled to control the vehicle as a large limb pierced through the center dashboard and windshield at an angle, striking Teresa in the armpit. Another branch shattered the windshield and impaled her in the shoulder. First responders arrived at the scene and were faced with the difficult task of extracting the 79-year-old woman from the vehicle without aggravating her injuries. Sydney Fire and Rescue used the jaws of life to cut through the wreckage and then remove the tree limb which had pinned Teresa with a handsaw. She was taken to Maine General Hospital in critical condition with 7 broken ribs and other injuries. David had also been struck by the branch but wasn't reported as being in mortal danger. Teresa miraculously survived her ordeal, and her husband would subsequently tell a media outlet, "I feel like we had a guardian angel." Number 4. Keith Pinto. New Jersey lifeguard Keith Pinto was fatally struck by lightning in late August of 2021 as a thunderstorm swept through a beach in Berkeley Township. On the 30th of the month, in the afternoon, 19-year-old Pinto was sitting in an elevated aluminium chair on 21st Avenue Beach in South Seaside Park. The authorities didn't report if the stand was grounded or in compliance with other regulations related to severe weather. The Ocean County College student was struck by lightning along with 7 other people, including 3 of his fellow lifeguards. Pinto was pronounced dead at the scene while the others were taken to Community Medical Center in Toms River, where they were treated for injuries that weren't considered life-threatening, including headaches, dizziness, and hearing issues. As explained by New Jersey 101.5 meteorologist Dan Zarrow, Pinto had sustained a direct strike and consequently most of the damage because he was in an elevated position. Electricity traveled through the chair and into the ground, jumping to anyone near the stand. Speaking with NBC 10, Vince Ruffalo described the shock that he'd suffered. He was standing next to the aluminium chair when a powerful jolt threw him off his feet before he awoke to the smell of burning hair and requiring treatment. One man was at a beachfront house about 100 yards from the lifeguard stand, and he described the sounds associated with the storm as the loudest he'd ever heard, up to 100 times more resounding than a sonic boom. In the aftermath of Pinto's tragic demise, beachgoers paid tribute through flowers and written messages at the stand where he'd been struck down. Number 3. Manna and DJ Lin. In August of 2021, a North Carolina woman filmed her house being swept away by floodwaters in the aftermath of Storm Fred. From atop a dry hill in Canton, Manna and DJ Lin recorded the disastrous effect the storm had had on the area. In the audio, she could be heard sarcastically remarking, "Oh good, it missed my car," as her home floated only inches past her vehicle. The house then collided with another uprooted building and sustained heavy damage. On a GoFundMe page titled "Help Lin Family to Rebuild," the woman would later report that the impact had torn her home in half. Lin also shared a photo of her car, coated in mud and with deployed airbags, as although her house had missed it, another structure eventually ended up on top of the vehicle. After water had breached the banks of the Pigeon River, flash flooding claimed the lives of 2 elderly residents from the village of Crusoe and at least 2 others in other parts of Hayward County. According to subsequent reports on the disaster, the police were using K9 units and air drones in an effort of locating several more people who'd been reported missing. Today's topic was requested by D. Shine, Michael Ballone, Nintendo Freak, and Amy C. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Juliana da Silva Quiroz Murillo. 37-year-old Juliana da Silva Quiroz Murillo died in February of 2022 after a tree collapsed on the Honda driven by her husband. The incident took place during Storm Eunice. Cab driver Carlos, age 39, had just picked up his partner from her job as a house cleaner and was driving on Muswell Hill Road in North London. Juliana, originally from Brazil, was in the passenger seat when a tree came crashing down and hit the roof of the Honda. The top of the vehicle was severely compressed and Juliana took the brunt of the damage. Carlos was hurt but conscious. He would later remember that a woman came to him and held his hand in the immediate aftermath of the accident. Other bystanders tried to remove the massive trunk, but Carlos and Juliana eventually had to be cut out of the wreck by emergency rescuers. Carlos suffered cut hands and bruised ribs in the crash, and while being transported to a local hospital in an ambulance, was told that his wife had passed away. Number 1. Tani Martin. In February of 2017, a bride-to-be from the town of Stafford, England, suffered devastating injuries after she was struck by a wood panel that had been torn off by powerful winds. The incident happened at the time of Storm Doris when 29-year-old Tani Martin was outside a Starbucks near the Manda Shopping Centre in Wolverhampton. The wind ripped off a section of a wood panel which struck Martin, killing her on the spot. The woman had gotten engaged shortly before her death and had reportedly been planning to start a family with fiancé Scott Lee. An inquest found that a gust of wind of roughly 59 miles per hour had lifted the wood panel from its connective pieces, but also discovered that the shopping centre's maintenance regime had failed in their upkeep of a 3-foot by 5-foot plant room building. Attached to the brick building was a redundant water tank covered by the panel. Investigators determined that the fixtures and fittings, which would have kept the panel in its place, had rotted after years of neglect. An analysis of old paint layers revealed that the last protective coat on the wooden fittings had been applied as far back as 1998, almost 2 decades prior to Martin's death. Cushman Wakefield Debenham Tai Lung Limited, the company in charge of maintenance, admitted breaching of health and safety laws. It was fined an estimated $1.6 million in July of 2019. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be caught in a hurricane while flying in a commercial jet or in a tsunami while on a cruise ship? Let us know in the comments section below.